What if the secret to client loyalty, advocacy, and long-term value isn't really in your investment performance, but it's in the conversations you're having? In this episode, we're going to dive into a simple yet powerful framework called FORM: family, occupation, recreation, and money. It's more than just small talk. It's the foundation of trust, the trigger for referrals, and the reason that your best clients stay on for life, and more importantly, tell others about you. Let's explore how to gather, how to store it, but most importantly, how to use it to create meaningful connections that lead to client advocacy.
This is The Rare Advisor, a show for financial advisors who want to build and grow their practice through the use of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. The Rare Advisor is brought to you by the Advisor Protocol Consulting Team at USA Financial.
Welcome back to The Rare Advisor. I'm your host, Grady, and today we're talking about one of the simplest but most powerful tools in your relationship management process, the acronym FORM. Now, on the surface, it seems pretty simple and intuitive, and quite frankly, it is. But so often, many advisors miss out on what FORM truly is. The idea of getting to know your clients on a deeper, more personal level. And see, now, most advisors do a pretty good job of learning personal information about their clients as a part of their procedural job. Gathering information to fill out applications or set up accounts, doing goal planning to determine income streams in the future. But they often fall short of being able to effectively use this information to deepen relationships and ultimately elevate the client experience. And so by using a simple acronym, it allows not only you and your team to be present of mind and intentional about gathering this information, it also gives you a way to share this with your clients. And we use the idea and the concept all the time of when the why is clear, the how becomes easy. And so by making your clients or prospects part of this process, so they understand that the reason you're gathering this information isn't simply so that you can fill out an application, but because you want to know them on a deeper, more personal level, they seem to open up and be more apt to share outside of the bounds of filling out a date of birth or maybe an anniversary date. And so really understanding FORM, the acronym FORM, it's FORM, and it simply stands for family. What's important to them at home? This is legacy and succession issues. Occupation, it's less about what they do, but more about achieving that work optional lifestyle. When we talk about recreation, it's what do they do when they're not working? What are their passions? What are their hobbies? What organizations are they affiliated with? What alumni associations? It's that recreational bucket list of items that they work so hard in their career to save the money or make the time or they strive for this in the future. So their recreational bucket list. And then money, really that's more about most advisors do a good job of gathering the assets and understanding where the money is. This is more about their philosophical goals and where they view their money in the context of their life. And so the F, the O, the R, the M, and mainly for the sake of what we're talking about today, we really focus on the first three, the family, the occupation, and the recreation. This is really truly the crux of how can we harness this information to continue to grow and deepen the relationship. Now understand, FORM in and of itself, this is not a data mining tactic. This is not about let's see how much data we can get on this person and how we can get into their deepest, darkest secret. It's not about that. It's about meaningful engagement. It's about showing that you care about the person beyond the portfolio. As we start talking about more and more about creating client advocacy, the being a good advisor and getting a good rate of return is table stakes at this point. It is what is expected. It's what they pay you for. And so anything you can do to continue to set yourself apart and create professional contrast, to create an opportunity where the client wants to talk about not what you do, but how you make them feel is really what we're striving for. And so let's talk about the process. So we're really going to focus in a couple of different areas. So we're going to talk about how do you gather FORM, how do you store FORM, and then how do you use it to deepen the relationship. So on the front end of this, how do you gather FORM? So what I would encourage any advisor is don't force it. FORM details naturally come up when trust is present. And so I would encourage you to use open-ended questions, use value-based questions, be interested. There was a Harvard study that was done that shows that typically you need to ask three back-to-back questions, dig 3 layers deep. And the idea of really, when you get to that second and third question, what it's showing the other person is that you truly care. It's not a passing platitude where you're asking a question like, hey, how's it been? Or what's the weather like? Or, how are the kids? It's when you ask that second and that third question, you're signaling to the person on the other side of the table that you truly are invested and you truly do care. So build trust, use open-ended questions, value-based questions, be intentional, create a structure around it. There are tools like the form gathering template, which gives you a way to organize what type of questions would fit into gathering information about the family. What kind of questions would fall under the occupation or the work optional lifestyle? What are the ones that would fall under the recreational bucket list? You can use resources like the What's Important to You resource to find out really what drives them or what things keep them up at night. And you can use simple client profile summaries. All of these things can be used during the new client onboarding process. These can all be used when you're first starting a new client relationship. And for those clients, once they're on board and they're clients, going forward, year after year, every time you get in front of a client, have an opportunity. I would encourage advisors that on their strategy and tactical agendas, their review meetings, to have the very first bullet at the top of the agenda to say form updates. This is an opportunity. Some advisors say, a meeting overview or whatever. Form updates. This is, again, an opportunity to remind your clients that you care about what's going on in their life outside of their portfolio. And by using the acronym form in front of them, helping them understand and contextualize family, occupation, recreation, that those things are important. Those are the whys around financial independence. Money is important, but money is simply a tool and a resource that makes their why happen and makes it possible for them to focus on things like their family, their work optional lifestyle, their recreational pursuits. And so continuing to keep that idea and concept in front of them is important because now they become part of the process. They're living it alongside of you. Now, a pro tip for all of you listening is use an AI note taker. At this day and age, it's pretty much, they're all out there. There's lots of, I use an AI note taker when in my meetings with clients. And it is amazing the amount of detail that you miss during small talk and conversation when you're trying to think about, oh, I need to remember to do this, or you're trying to write something down. Using the AI note taker, make sure that you don't miss the small things that are actually some of the biggest things that are most important to your clients. So use an AI note taker, but make sure you do it with permission. Make sure that they're okay with you having it there. So gathering it, make it simple, make it structured, make it intentional. Then how do we store it? So here's really the tricky thing. Too often I hear from advisors or from their team that, oh yeah, we know tons of information about our best clients. Well, where's that information at? Well, it all resides in the advisor's head. Don't rely on memory. The best advisors turn their insights into data that's searchable and actionable. If it's in your head, it's knowledge. If it's down on paper, it's an asset. When it's an asset of the firm, this goes on to build value in your practice. If you're going to go sell your practice at some point, or you're going to go through succession, that knowledge of your best client relationships is something that cannot be recreated by another advisor who's going to try to attack those relationships with products, pricing, and performance, because you're insulating your clients with your philosophy, your process, and your planning strategy. But more importantly, by the unique relationship that you've built with them. And once you've built that relationship and you know all this personal information and you have a personalized experience, now you've really dug that moat. So make sure that it's not just you, the advisor, that your entire team is able to use it. So easiest way to do that is go ahead and create tags inside of your CRM. Use your CRM as a relationship management system. Create fields or tags for family, for occupation, for recreation, and start being intentional. As you gather this information, after every single meeting you will have with a client, make sure that that information is passed on to a member of your team and is then added to the system. Now, here's where it gets even a little next level. Include anecdotal notes and relevant dates. birthdays, kids graduations, trips. Make sure there's a date on there. The reason why the date becomes important is if your entire team has access to the information, now they can know, is this old information? Is this new information? And when new information comes, make sure you date that too. And you keep the newest information always at the top of the fields. There's some best practices where we also create an important information field where the most recent bit of information, because you're going to get, years of data. You want the most recent information at the very, 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 very top so that your team can leverage that. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about how do we use form to create advocates in your firm? Well, the old adage, the old Cheers song, everybody, you want to go where everybody knows your name. Creating a personalized experience can be simply a way of being intentional about sharing this information back with clients. It shows that you paid attention, that you listen. When inbound calls come in, and it's one of your best client relationships, and your assistant picks up the phone and they're saying, yes, I will get you to the advisor. And then that breath between those moments, they take a moment and they look at that form information and they realize, oh, wait, they just took a trip, or they just had a new grandbaby, and they can say, oh, hey, by the way, how is that little one? How was your trip to Hawaii? When people feel seen, when they feel heard, when they feel special, that's where the times for advocacy really raise their hand. And then they're like, these people care about me more than just about the money. And it's a simple thing, but it can be done with intention. You can also use it for pre-meeting prep and in the meeting. So make it easy for yourself to use this information to kick off those meetings. As we said, having that bullet on the front of the agenda that says form updates. You can use bits of information that you've already gathered to start the meeting. And then, hey, is there anything new I need to be aware of? You can use form for other meaningful touch points. This is something that I think oftentimes advisors really miss this as an opportunity. I have advisors that will, they know that a client maybe likes wine. So you may have read an article about a Napa Valley wine tour, and you say, hey, you know what? I thought of you after our last conversation, and I wanted to send you this article. There are easy ways where you can automate some of that, where you can actually set RSS up so you can actually look on the internet for these topics. You can pull magazine articles. You can send handwritten notes. Hey, the other day I was traveling and I saw this and I thought of you. I have an advisor who had a client who really, really liked certain types of teas. And the advisor was on a trip to Colorado and happened to be in a shop and saw some of these teas, and then packaged them up, put them up with a postcard, and sent them to the client. You can use this as an opportunity to do what we call form calls. So between your strategy and tactical meetings, there's an opportunity to pick up the phone on a scheduled basis. Now, perceived to the client, it may come off as off the cuff or out of the blue. But on your end, it's calendared on your schedule to fall roughly sometime between your strategy and tactical meetings for you to simply pick up the phone. And it's not about the portfolio. It's not about the markets. It's about, hey, Bill, Nancy, last time we talked, you shared with me that this was going on. I just wanted to circle back and see how life's going. I was thinking about you today, and whether you catch them on the phone or you don't, the value in saying that, hey, I care about you enough to pick up the phone and give you a call is immense. And it's genuine. For your best client relationships where you start to get to know them. And this helps reinforce it for you and for your team, those things that are most important to them. Now, on a side note, what I will tell you is what we've learned from the advisors we work with is on these form calls, these personal calls, 9 times out of 10, when you actually do have a conversation with a client, this is where you're going to learn about what we call those moments of truth. These are those seminal moments in a client's life that could have serious ramifications for their plan or for their financial future or for their family future. And this gives you an opportunity to take action and actually show that you care and to acknowledge these moments of truth in a client's life. Understand that form deepens the loyalty. It makes interactions memorable and referable. And there's more than that. What you also should understand is there's a multiplier effect. When a client feels genuinely seen and understood, they become an advocate, not because you asked for referral, but because you earned their trust. And so understand that form isn't just a tool. It's a mindset of curiosity and care. So what I would challenge you to do as an advisor, and I would tell you that I did this myself when I first got introduced to the concept, and it was quite revealing. I did it with some of my very close friends, and I was shocked to see how much information I knew. The problem was it was in my head. And so what I would challenge you to do is review your top 20 households, your top 20 clients, and then ask yourself, what do I really know about them? What do I know about their form? And then say, how much of this information has been integrated into our system? How much of this information does our team know? And are we actually leveraging this information to grow and deepen the relationship and build client advocates? And so I would encourage you to start beginning to integrate this information into your CRM and creating team discussions to make sure that you're getting the most out of this information. And so if you like what you heard today, as always, like and subscribe. And as we always say, when the why is clear, the how becomes easy. And so never lose sight of your why.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.